Good evening, I'm Jeff Lyons. This is the 14First Alert Weather Show at 9 on Wednesday, May the 6th. I'm glad you're here tonight. If you have questions, you can put them on the 14 News Facebook page, and we'll read those and compare notes here in just a little bit. We have clearing skies across the tri-state right now, and a nice evening. You can see some stars out there. Even on our weather camera here. As those skies clear tonight, it is going to get a lot cooler. We should drop down into the 40s here overnight, and then we warm up Thursday and Friday, back to 70 degrees on Friday and closer to 80 on Saturday. But along the way, we may pick up some more rain, especially late Friday night and again on Sunday. So as we go through the overnight hours, still some clouds, here and there, but nothing that will produce rain. Really fine day on Thursday, and then Friday rolls in with some showers and storms to our north that will then drop through after midnight and sweep across the area. That should be good timing. I know we have the barbecue and barrels in Owensboro going on this weekend, and that will be fine. The overnight rain shouldn't have any impact on the event itself. Total rainfall with that first wave coming up, probably around 1/10 of an inch or a little more, depending on whether or not we have thunderstorms. And we're not anticipating severe weather at all, but we could hear some rumbles of thunder. Our current temperatures, this is on late Friday night, our current temperatures are now in the middle 50s. We had some wind today, certainly not as much as we've had this week in previous days, with our maximum gusts there around 20 miles an hour. Still some rain over Tennessee, but we are completely out of that business for now. Clear skies and 53 here at the station. Our low today was down to 46. We will probably drop to about 43 tomorrow morning, so slightly cooler. And then our high this afternoon was up to 62 degrees. That means we're slightly warmer than we were yesterday at this time. Our low was below normal, and of course our high this afternoon was below normal by about 13 degrees. So we're running the furnace still here in May, or at least some of us are, but hopefully that will go away pretty soon too as more seasonable temperatures return. We did add beneficial rainfall, about 76/100ths of an inch at Evansville Regional. Other spots, though, picked up quite a bit more, and our deficit for the month then is at about 1/3 of an inch. And of course, our average temperature well below the norm, but then again, we only have 6 days figured in there on the average. There's all the rain that came through, starting with last night at this time. And coming across, we checked rain gauges. Hard and Gregory checked the rain gauges that we have access to around the tri-state, and actual measured rainfall was actually very encouraging. We had close to 2 inches there in Webster County, 1.25 inches in Union County, about 1.25 inches up there between Princeton and Francisco, and about 1.25 inches in Jasper. So decent rainfall. That's a soaker in my book. Illinois, we had 1.17 inches there at Grayville, or at Carmi there at the airport. For now, those clouds continue to move out, and our next weather maker is poised to the west. It's high pressure that's going to slide in here and basically scrub out all the cloud cover and allow sunshine on Thursday and Friday. There's the cold front that'll bring us some rain late Friday night. It really won't put a dent in the temperature. In fact, ironically, we will get our warmest day of the week on Saturday. Even with a frontal passage there, those westerly winds should bring in the milder air and get us up close to 80 on Saturday. And then we keep the temperature more or less in the normal range for all of next week. After the rain on Friday, we have another chance on Saturday night and Sunday. I'm going to show you 2 models here because the GFS this afternoon just all of a sudden said, nah, we're not going to have rain Sunday. Whether that's the beginning of a trend or just, a blip in the data, hard to say. But I'm going to show you the European here because I think it's a little steadier in depicting what we're expecting here for the weekend. The GFS generates about 1/2 inch of rain across the area between now and Tuesday. And the European model, now watch this. This is Sunday, so Mother's Day, 6 a.m., partly cloudy, and then we have rain moving in during the afternoon. maybe a rumble of thunder, and then beyond that, we clear out again, and the next chance for rain on the European and on the GFS is on Wednesday. Maybe some thunderstorms then. And so consequently, the European is going to be a little lighter on total rainfall, about 1/3 of an inch there through the weekend, and maybe a little more in that stuff next week. So we will drop to 43 overnight tonight and then go back up to 66 tomorrow. We're making strides in the right direction. Over the next 7 days, we get temperatures on an even keel there, around 75 or so. And we have, of course, our best chance of rain after Friday night will be on Sunday. The temperature outlook now starting to trend the other way, warmer than normal to finish out May, and a little bit wetter than normal too, at least leading up to the 20th. And our pet pick tonight, we've got another one here. This is Fred. Fred's looking out the window, the Gladys Kravitz Award winner. Same pet owner, Julie Alexander, sends this to us, so we appreciate that. All right, let me have a look here at your questions and comments, and we'll see if we can shed any light on those. I got a few of us in here. Laura Grayson from Dawson Springs. All right, always glad to have you in there. Jeff Miller thinks it's Venus that I was looking at. Yeah, that was looking west, and I figured it was probably either Venus or maybe Jupiter, but Venus. Sounds good to me. William Raleigh had nearly an inch of rain, 97 hundredths. And the station's rain gauge, we actually added up. We were real close to the airport. We were, I think, 7,500, something like that, at my house, which is not too far from here, but more toward USI. I think we had 78 hundredths or something. It's unusual for my gauge to match the airport, or actually any gauge to match the airport. The airport always seems to not get very much rain relative to everybody else. I don't know what's up with that. Anyhow, Science Corner tonight, we're going to talk about how tornadoes form. And you know, when we were kids, your teachers always said, well, you know, warm air and cold air clash into each other and you get a tornado. Well, that's on a very broad sense, that's right, but it's not right all the times. There are cases when we have air that's not particularly warm or cold coming together in the right way that can produce tornadoes. It really is more a function of wind shear, or turning or rotation in the atmosphere. And the way that sets up is our surface winds, which typically, and we're just going to have kind of the average or boilerplate tornado, you would have a strong southwesterly wind at the surface, and then high above it in the atmosphere, the winds would be oriented a little more maybe south to north or even southeast to northwest. And what that does is, as the air rises from the surface, it causes it to rotate. And so the stronger those upper level winds are, oftentimes they will introduce this rotation, broad rotation, into a storm system, which first starts out as kind of a rolling, think of a horizontal or a cylinder here, a column of air rotating. And what happens through time, remember last night we talked about the updrafts in thunderstorms that produce hail, and that's why sometimes we get hail with tornadoes. You have a strong updraft, and what that does is it draws the rotating column of air and makes it stand up on end, so it's vertical. And once that happens, and the cloud base then is supported there or with the rotation, you get a wall cloud potentially. That's usually the first sign that a tornado may develop. You don't always get a tornado with a wall cloud. But occasionally you'll get that wall cloud, and then beneath that the funnel would drop down. When the funnel touches the ground, you would have a tornado. And as you know from watching the stream show here, we've talked about tornado strengths and the EF scale developed by Theodore Fujita way back in the 1970s. He was an engineer and a researcher up at the University of Chicago. And he was curious to figure out how strong winds were blowing in tornadoes. And the only way you could do that, because you couldn't really measure it with wind instruments, in sight there, in situ. He sent structural engineers out, and he himself went out, and they looked at damage after tornadoes. And they went back to the lab into a wind tunnel, And they said, okay, 100-mile-an-hour winds does this, and 150-mile-an-hour winds would do that. And that's how the original F scale was developed. In about 2008 or so, the enhanced Fujita scale was introduced, and that's because there was a lot more science available. A lot more tornadoes had happened by that point, more research had been done, and it actually pulled the numbers down. In the old Fujita scale, your EF5s were estimated at 300 miles per hour. Now it's anything over 200, and even then, the percentage of tornadoes that we get at that level is very small, less than 1%, which is a good thing. Most of our tornadoes, in fact, the tornadoes that we have had this year have all fallen in that EF0 and EF1 range, and that's real common for the tri-state. There are more of those. They are harder to detect on the radar, so we don't know exactly how many as the fraction of the whole number. We don't see that are these weak spin-up tornadoes that happen over somebody's bean field and nobody sees it or reports it. But in any case, in the ones that have been reported, your EF0s and 1s are the most prevalent. Then EF2, 3, we still have about a fourth of all tornadoes in that category, and EF4 is about a 1% of the tornado population. That doesn't sound right. Number of tornadoes would rank there. And that's why they're very rare. We've had EF4 tornadoes, of course, here in the tri-state, but in a given year, it's unlikely. Typically, though, if you have conditions for one EF4, you're going to maybe have several on that day, maybe not all right here in the tri-state. But it's interesting, if you look at data, you can draw a lot of different conclusions on tornado strength in that. William Raleigh says there's a nasty tornado producing storm down in Mississippi right now. I know, that was way down there in the southern edge of the state, kind of down below Jackson, I believe. So James Garrison wants to know, when will the warmer weather stick? I would guess in another week or two we will probably make the turn, and of course by then we're practically into June, and it should then be consistently and reliably warm, like it's supposed to be in May, 80s and thunderstorms in that. May is actually, from a statistics standpoint, we tend to have the most tornadoes in the month of May. Most destructive tornadoes here in the tri-state tend to happen in the cool season, November, December, but usually we get our most active spate of storms in May. So always keep your guard up during the month of May. All right, that's all I have for you tonight. I will see you over on 14 News at 10. In the meantime, stay safe. Thanks for watching and have a good night.